Yeah. Oh, Nico. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spielberg, where it is raining. And it's been kind of predicted that this would happen for much of the day, really, because there's been quite a lot of cloud cover, and now it's finally come to fruition, and the clouds have opened, and the rain is beginning to tumble down as we see Alexander Nussbaumer make his way to the grid. Welcome to the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell. We have two categories of drivers in this race. The Shell drivers with the yellow sun strip, forgive the pun, across the top of the windscreen, and the Shell&AM drivers with the white strip across the top of the windscreen. So the rain started maybe 5 minutes ago. It is the first race for Coppa Shell. Now, in fairness to our Coppa Shell drivers, much of the practice sessions that they've been through have been in the wet weather conditions here in Spielberg. Here's our postcard to welcome you here to Austria. Arguably one of the most scenic location backdrops for any racing circuit in Europe, in my opinion. Utterly beautiful, though perhaps not quite so appealing when the rain is coming down. Please follow us on at Ferrari Races, be part of the Ferrari family, and that's precisely where we are. It's about 2 hours, I guess, south of Vienna. The air temperature, as you can see, is about 11 degrees, the track temperature 18 degrees. Hardly any wind around and lots of cloud, as you can see, and the rain tumbling down. Now, confirmation that the start of this race will be behind the safety car, which I'm kind of not surprised about that. So the start of the race, it's being confirmed by race control into my ears as we speak, will be behind the safety car. Now, on the very wet grid for us this afternoon, good afternoon, Ludovica.
Good afternoon to everyone and welcome back to Austria for the third round of Ferrari Challenge Europe. Everything is ready for the race one of Coppa Shell. Today is the first round and first race in wet condition, and for this reason, before the race, all the teams and the drivers change their wheels with the wet wheels. And in this condition, all the drivers pay attention to the turns 1 and 3 because there is the risk of aquaplaning. Now let's dive in the grid for here a lot of expectation and sensation of our driver. In pole position today start Alexander Nussbaumer. This is the circuit. He's a circuit of home, and he took the first pole position. So now let's hear the poleman. Good afternoon, Alexander. How are you? Congratulations for the pole position. And this is the first round in wet condition. What do you expect from this race?
Oh, thank you for the pole position. I expect nothing. So it's a game. And we see who will win this game. I try my best, but it will be quite tricky. It's hard raining at the moment, so let's see what will happen on the track.
And with the team, what is the strategy that you decide for this track today? The strategy to maintain the pole position and to go to the podium.
The strategy is very easy. If you start from pole, keep it in front and stay in front till the checkered flag. That's
Okay.
the strategy.
Okay. Thank you. Good luck. Thank you for your time. And now continue our journey in the grid, because from the second position we have Axel Sartingen, who in race 1 and race 2 in Misano won and the ranking of this season. Is very important for him this race. And now let's hear to Axel Sartingen, that in this moment he is talking with his team coach for the last and the latest changes for this race and the strategy. So Axel, sorry, thank you. Axel, is a good start for you today. First round in wet condition, and you start near the dominator now of this circuit. What do you expect?
Yeah, it will be a funny race, and rain is always very difficult. And hopefully we all stay on track. It's good that we start on the safety car. Here they have a little bit new tarmac. There's aquaplaning possible, so we have to be careful, and hopefully we finish all the race. So will be fun.
Thank you for your time, Axel.
Thanks.
Thank you. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Axel Sartingen. Then, as we look at Manuela Gosner, who, as you can see, goes from P4 on the grid. Just to her inside is Ernst Kirchmeier. Welcome back to Ernst Kirchmeier. He will be going from P3 on the grid. So the grid is formed then, and as I say, we have confirmation that the start will be behind the safety car. There's another member of the Gosner family, that is Corinna Gosner. And Corinna Gosner not qualified quite as well as her sister, but nonetheless expect good things from Corinna Gosner potentially in the race. And of course the rain is something of a leveler. Let's take a look at this Spielberg circuit in detail now. Now, you wind uphill through turn number 1, up through the kink, which is turn number 2. That completes sector 1. And then you continue climbing through turn 3 before you begin the roller coaster, heading towards turn 4, 5, and 6. It's a constant downhill, quite technical section, and that's also the case for turns 7, 8, 9, and 10 before you complete a lap of the 4.3-kilometer circuits here in Spielberg. So that's the track in full for you. Some 10 turns, 3 of them left, 7 of them are right-handers, and a big elevation change from the bottom of the circuit here to the top.
When we started 12 years ago, usually we were lapped after half the race. Today the level is so much higher. It's really competitive. As you know, Spielberg is one of my favorite tracks. So now I'm just really looking forward to the weekend, and I'm expecting and hoping for a little bit of rain, because I like when it's slippery. This is magic, it's heaven, it's really like being home. Passione Ferrari, ja?
Ja, die Marke Ferrari ist für mich Emotion und die Liebe zum Detail und das Marketing im Gesamtpaket ist einzigartig. Und ich war wirklich sehr überrascht über diese Veranstaltung, wie das organisiert ist, aufgebaut ist, einfach top.
I have great memories. I won here 3 years ago. Yeah, Ferrari Challenge is very special. You have a good atmosphere, you meet friends, everybody more or less mean it good with you, and you have a big competition. So it's really a nice family.
Also, erstens bin ich ein Siegertyp. Für mich war es das Ziel, hier wirklich die AM zu gewinnen. Beim ersten Rennen habe ich dann gemerkt, ich tue mich echt schwer. Sagen wir, neues Auto, neue Strecken. Also ich freue mich sehr, dass ich hier sein kann in der Ferrari-Welt. Bin toll aufgenommen worden von allen hier. Für mich war ja alles Neuland, nur das Team war bekannt. Und freue mich auf die komplette Saison und hoffe, dass ich am Ende der Saison wirklich ganz weit vorne bin.
Just some of our drivers from the Coppa Shell. And they, of course, the Shell drivers and the Shell&AM drivers, as well as many people here take refuge from the rain. And we are going to be off and racing very, very soon, albeit behind the safety car to start. So ordinarily, the Richard Mills safety car would lead the cars away on a formation lap. They would line up side by side in grid formation, but that is not the case because the rain coming down means that we will start behind the safety car. So effectively, the cars are released now. High time to introduce my colleague alongside me, Nico Spalek. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody, from a wet Spielberg. And as you can see from the top of your screen, the race has officially started. So under the safety car, the race is underway. Obviously no overtaking behind the safety car.
Yes, it's always a prediction, but there you can see. This is one of the problems that you have when you have lots of water. It is visibility. Let's go through the grid then. It's Alexander Nussbaumer going from pole position with Axel Sardigan alongside. He is the current championship leader. Then it's Ernst Kirkman making a welcome return, and Manuela Gosner going from P4 on the grid. Willem van der Vorm and Christian Kinch, and say hello to Christian's daughter Sabina, celebrating a birthday today, a young racing superstar to come, I'm sure. Roger Grols and von Skeltermaier on the next row. It's row 4. Thomas Gosner and John Dillon, they go from P9 and P10. And next up, we find Christian Herdvieper and Corinna Gosner. They are P11 and P12. To row 7 of the grid, where we find Eric Chung and Ingvar Madsen. Good to see Ingvar Madsen back in the car again from Scuderia Autoropa. Then it is Kirk Beervold and Martinus Richter. They are the quickest of the Shell&AM drivers. And P15 and P16, but P1 and 2 in category for them. Motohiko Isasaki and Tommy Lindroth, P17 and 18, with Paolo Scudieri and Giuseppe Romelli on the next row. Then we find Roland Hurtner and Lisa Clark. It's Josef Schumacher and Pino Frascara that go from P23 and P24, ahead of Louis Perescoia and Christian Windisberger. They are P25 and P26, with Stefano Marazzi going from P27. Now, the conjecture is that the safety car will stay out probably for 2 laps. I would suggest maybe 3. That is down to the report coming back from the safety car driver to race control, and also how race control feel about it. Generally, what happens is the safety car goes out for lap 1. It will increase its speed on lap 2. And just sometimes the safety car will come in after lap 2. Maybe it will do another lap at a slightly increased speed as well. And basically what it is, it's allowing the drivers to become familiar with how the track is performing and where those aquaplaning risks are. As we heard from Axel Sardigan, there's been some resurfacing here, which lends itself to, unfortunately, that problem of aquaplaning when you have no control whatsoever.
Absolutely, and also obviously the 27 cars plus a safety car running across the track will dissipate some of the standing water that has formed since the last track activity that we had. So that's the extra benefit of getting a little bit of the water away from the racing line and the vicinity of the racing line. And as you say, it is primarily familiarizing oneself with how the track might perform under race conditions.
Josef Schumacher is the driver that we looked at then, and we ride on board with the Richard Mille safety car. And Alexander Nussbaumer, who of course came into Coppa Shell this year as the Coppa Shell&AM champion. He was victorious last year, and that means he moved up a class into Coppa Shell. And Alexander Nussbaumer then having a very good time of it in qualifying today. His best finish thus far has been a relatively lowly P5, which came in the second race of the opening round in Valencia in Spain. We know Alexander Nussbaumer, and he's back to the form that we know him for, I suspect. Now, we are getting information the safety car is coming in at the conclusion of this lap. So it will be down to racing then. Big problems will be visibility for some of those drivers. For the likes of Alexander Nussbaumer, it's no problem at all, because of course he's got relatively clear track in front of him. It will be clear. It's all those drivers that are following Nico, and they've got to try and find a way through the murk and the mire of the spray that's being kicked up from the 488 Challenge Evos that are ahead of them.
Yeah, definitely, and unfortunately it does not help the M drivers, which are following a crowd of 14 Shell drivers, so they get the extra challenge thrown at them. It's going to be a big cloud of spray which they dive into, but they are racing drivers, they embrace the challenge, and they have no choice but to do that now.
And we could see just a classic example of being on board with von Skeltermar there, just what it was like to be in a 488 Challenge Evo car right now. We look back from the Martinus Richter car, and you can see just how much spray is being kicked up. So safety car has come in, and we are ready to go racing proper now. First 5 minutes is done. And Alexander Nussbaumer then will head the cars to the line, and let's go racing. So turn number 1, is everyone going to be cautious? Alexander Nussbaumer then P1, Axel Sardigan closing up behind, and so too Ernst Kirchmeier. And all the cars, and there are, as you rightly say, some 26 of them that will make their way through turn number 1, and thus far all appear to be making their way through that turn relatively unscathed. Heading up to turn number 3 right now with Alexander Nussbaumer, and just we could see from the corner of our picture that maybe someone had gone around through turn number 1. There's Willem van der Vorm, here's von Skeltermar with the shark's teeth chasing down Christian Kinch. John Dillon there. See going in that P10 position, so into the points, and I think it might have been Lisa Clark that was involved in that. I can see she's dropped down a position from Josef Schumacher, and Willem van der Vorm very brave here. Willem van der Vorm with Manuel Agostner now. It's a long way around the outside of that particular turn that we could pick up on there, and we'll see if Willem van der Vorm has made it stick. Indeed he has. So Willem van der Vorm puts himself into P4, having gone around the outside of Manuel Agostner in turn number 4. Impressive driving from Willem, who does like the wet, it has to be said. Here comes Roger Grols then on the inside of Manuel Agostner as she tries to close the door and rotate the car through the turn. The gap that she was going for was full of the Roger Grols car. And Roger Grols has moved up a position as well, which sees Manuel Agostner moving down the order. So let's see how they settle down. Eric Chung may have been a driver affected by that turn 1 incident as well, because he's dropped down the order, and Martinus Richter finds himself leading in the Coppa Shell&AMs. So very good job being done by Martinus Richter, and Motohiko Isasaki is P2, and Kerk Beervold, who was pole sitter in Coppa Shell&AM, now finds himself in P3, Nico.
Absolutely. Roland Hurtner, meanwhile, has put the car into pit lane even before the race starts, so whatever it was, maybe it was just extra caution. He is not taking part in the race for the moment, and Ingvar Madsen is also dropping down a little bit. Yeah, tidy start. I mean, that is just
That's
amazing.
indicative, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the camera obviously compresses that with that long lens. But we've already seen 2 very, very good overtakes already being done. And especially the Willem van der Vorm one was really, really adventurous. Even in the best of condition, going around the outside through that turn is a challenge. And he made it stick through the wet. And Eric Chung again dropping on our timing screen, so he is struggling with the conditions, it seems.
You can see Willem taking a completely different line to norm, and that is the thing, isn't it? The drivers, they do have to adopt a different line. Some of the optimum lines that you would take during dry conditions are clearly quite different when it comes to the wet weather.
Absolutely. Everything that involves the curbs, basically, is a non-starter in these conditions, because where the track is slippery, those painted curbs become extremely slippery. You don't really want to put a wheel on those if you can avoid it.
Yes, I'm not expecting us to see so many track limits warnings during the course of this race. Christian Kinch and von Skeltermar then. There's Thomas Gostner and John Dillon. So the order is Alexander Nussbaumer from Axel Sartingen and Ernst Kirchmayr for the Shell drivers. For the Shell&AM drivers, it's Martinus Richter, Motohiko Isazaki and Kirk Beervold. So this is the battle for P6 in Coppa Shell that we're watching at the moment. It's Manuel Gostner, then Christian Kinch and von Skeltermar. So as they head towards the timing line now to put another lap in the book, where is Christian Kinch going to try and position his car? Of course, he's in this invidious position, Nico, of trying to attack Manuel Gostner and also protect himself from the attack that's likely to come from von Skeltermar right behind him. So through the Niki Lauda turn they go, and now head up towards turn number 2, where it's just a kink, really, turn number 2, and then into the real deal turn, which is turn number 3, which is where we see Roger Grols and Willem van der Voort make their way through that particular turn right now. So Christian places his car right in the middle of the circuit. That prevents him overtaking Manuel Gostner, but it also prevents von Skeltermar from overtaking him as well. So a defensive move there, as much as he realised that an attack then on Manuel Gostner was just not going to work. But von Skeltermar is looking very lively here, all over the back of the Christian Kinch car. So this is for P7, and can von Skeltermar get himself to the inside, but that quickly becomes the outside. Meantime, Nussbaumer, Sartingen and Kirchmayr, it's as they were. No changes there. Those drivers, of course, Axel Sartingen pushing really hard. He's leading the Drivers' Championship going into this round, and Alexander Nussbaumer, I do think he's got a huge advantage, Nico, by having utterly clear visibility ahead of him.
Yeah, absolutely, no question about that. Whenever you are leading or you have a significant gap in front of you, that helps in terms of lap times. Meanwhile, Christian Hurt-Wieper is showing on our timing screen as being stranded or having stopped on the track, and equally Martinus Richter, who was just leading the AMs just a moment ago, has dropped down to P3, which means Motohiko Isozaki, this driver in the green car, is now leading, and there should be the Martinus Richter car there. No visible damage, so no impact potentially, but maybe gone around or having some sort of issue, having to take evasive action, whatever it was. He certainly dropped from P1 to P3 in class, and he's being attacked by feisty Tommy Lindroth.
Tommy Lindroth, who's been coached this weekend by Fabian Volvent, former Ferrari Challenge champion, of course. And yeah, Martinus Richter, I have to say, we've seen no evidence of it, but by virtue of the fact the car remains unscathed, I'm sure that he just went around somewhere, lost a couple of places. But here comes Tommy Lindroth now, looking for a way past. This is getting very exciting indeed. So there is our new Coppa Shell&AM leader, and that's Motohiko Isozaki. Then there's Kirk Beervold, and between them they've got the Ingvar Madsen car from Scuderia Autoropa ahead of Martinus Richter, who's running in P3, but he's under real pressure from Tommy Lindroth. So Tommy Lindroth currently P4. It'd be good to see Tommy on the podium. Of course, Martinus Richter wants to have something to say about that, and you can see he's placed his car right in the middle of the track, running into turn number 4 now, and Tommy Lindroth there, taking a look just at the inside, but that would very quickly become the outside for the next turn. There you can see, I would suggest that Tommy is perhaps liking these conditions a little bit more than Martinus at the moment. So Motohiko Isozaki leading from Kirk Beervold and Martinus Richter, and Tommy Lindroth, as you can see, showing his face, and some of that is psychological, of course, Nico. It's just to worry Martinus ahead of him. Meantime, Nussbaumer, Sartingen and Kirchmayr, it's as they were, as here comes Tommy Lindroth now, putting the car right alongside Martinus Richter. And is this going to be an overtake from Tommy Lindroth? We pick them up. Tommy has done it. He's gone through, made that move stick. And well done, Tommy Lindroth. He's into a podium place right now, up to P3. Now, that makes me think that perhaps Martinus is, you can see him, his eyes are all over the dashboard. Whether he is nursing something, don't know. We're not in the car, we can't say.
No, but it looks like something that was just not just a momentary thing, but it looks like he, whatever reason, he doesn't quite have the pace that he had in qualifying in other sessions. So Tommy Lindroth running in P3, Kirk Beervold is in P2, and Motohiko Isozaki is leading in the AMs, and there is von Skeltermar in a package still with Manuel Gostner and Christian Kinch, and trying to move up the order. This is for P6, 7 and 8.
Yes, and it's intense, isn't it? Neither of them have found a way past Manuel Agostner at the moment. You would suggest that Fons, of the three of them, looks the quickest. Meantime, challenge going on for P2 here. That's a bold move with Ernst Kirchmayr side by side with Axel Sardigan, but can he make that stick? Indeed he can. So Ernst Kirchmayr goes up to P2 and wrestles that away from Axel Sardigan. And now, all of a sudden, there could be some pressure for Alexander Nussbaumer. Now, maybe, just maybe, Axel Sardigan's playing a long game here because, of course, he's the Drivers' Championship leader. Ernst Kirchmayr, we think, is possibly only doing 1 or 2 rounds this year. Therefore, for the Drivers' Championship, which Axel Sardigan has tried so hard to achieve, maybe he's just being clever about this and letting Ernst do a lot of the work here.
Yeah, and I think we can see from our pictures that the conditions have improved a little bit. It's not as much spray anymore, and that obviously allows the drivers to close up with the cars in front of them because visibility is just that little bit better. I'm not going to talk about a dry line developing just yet, but we've still got 15.5 minutes, and now that means the drivers have to adjust to the changing grid conditions and grip conditions especially. And it is a very, very thin line between being risk averse and being too cautious, and on the other hand, to be adventurous and to being too adventurous.
Yes, you're absolutely right, and very poetically put, if I may say. Just keep your eye on Willem van der Vorm. He's getting closer now to Axel Sardigan. Still, this battle rages, and this is with von Skeltermar, who we ride on board with now, the Kessel driver, chasing down Christian Kinch, and Manuel Agostner is ahead of them. It's P6, 7 and 8. And that's the way they are at the moment. Von Skeltermar continuing to try and find a way past Christian Kinch. Down in the pit lane is Ludovica.
Yes, guys, I've told with one of the members of the team of Pirelli about the tires for this race. As you can see in my back, the track in this moment is more wet, and in this moment is not raining. But the team manager of Pirelli told me that all the drivers maintain these wet tires until the end of the race.
Thank you very much for confirming what we thought would be the case, that even though, you know, perhaps a drier line will emerge, it's back to the old scenarios of old school racing when, you know, perhaps if you had an intermediate tyre, then you might, but with only 13 minutes left in the race, it would be completely academic, Nico.
Indeed, and we have to remember we're not in Formula 1. The pit stop here doesn't take 4, 5, 6, 8 seconds. It takes the better part of a minute because you don't have the pit crew to service the car from all 4 corners. So it would have to be a monumental advantage per lap, or a disadvantage. So, when talking about advantages, von Skeltermar trying to take advantage of Christian Kinch's attack on Manuel Agostner, and that almost went very, very much array, and he just kept it together. Oh, this is close.
It is close, and now, all of a sudden, joining in that battle are other drivers as well. So all of a sudden, what was a 3-way fight is going to become a 5-way fight, because another member of the Agostner family, Thomas Agostner, going to join in. So too is John Dillon. Here comes Christian Kinch on the inside of Manuel Agostner. But now, can Manuel come back on the inside? No. Well done, Christian Kinch. He's gone through, moved up to P6. So, von Skeltermar will be next in the queue to try and find a way past Manuel Agostner. He goes to the inside. Manuel Agostner gives racing room to von Skeltermar. He'll have the inside line going into turn number 1. The Niki Lauda turn, and surely Fons will go through, and then Dad Thomas having a look as well. So, well, you can just see how the von Skeltermar car, the back end of the car, Nico, was still loose in the challenging grip conditions. And now there's a fight on for the lead of the race, because Alexander Nussbaumer has got real pressure from Ernst Kirchmayr. So the 2 cars sliding together almost. Well, you can see a little bit of panel rubbing, and Ernst Kirchmayr does go through and picks up the lead of the race. So Alexander Nussbaumer then is relegated to P2. Ernst was absolutely committed to that. And in fairness, there was always going to be a touch between the two of them because the grip is just not there for them.
Yeah, but the good and fair racing between them.
I agree.
Ambitious move by Ernst Kirchmeier, but Alexander Nussbaumer gave him the racing room that he needed, and both of them make it through the turn. This all-Austrian battle for the lead here on home tarmac, and Ernst Kirchmeier with a little bit of a wobble, but keeps it controlled. 11.5 minutes remaining. Now Axel starting, and he's in P3. He is the championship leader. Will he have a go?
Got to, hasn't he? Got to. Well, you can see now, Kirchmeier has been released from Alexander Nussbaumer. He's just up the road, isn't he? And here comes Willem van der Vorm as well. So there's Axel Sardigan, who's currently holding that P3 position. And right, we're right on board now with von Skeltermaar. Next in his target sights is the car of Christian Kinch. Von's, I would suggest, is quicker, Nico, into turn number 1. Is he going to try and dive to the inside of Christian Kinch? But good momentum from Christian on the exit of the turn. So his next opportunity is going to be into turn number 3, I would suggest. Let's watch the 177 car of von Skeltermaar. Will he dive to the inside of turn number 3? Will Christian close the door? Indeed he does. Now, Fons will be hoping for perhaps a superior exit to try and get Christian on the way down to turn number 4, but he was certainly not close enough to be able to make that work. So the order now is Kirchmeier, Nussbaumer, Sardigan in the Shell drivers. In the Shell&AM drivers, it's Motohiko Isosaki from Kirk Beervold. And then it is Tommy Lindroth, P3. Martinus Richter has lost another couple of places. So von Skeltermaar, we're right on board with right now, is really fancying the opportunity here of P6 rather than P7. Although, I'm just looking here at the order because did I miss something? When did Roger Grols go through and take all of them?
We didn't see that, certainly. I mean, Roger Grols had good pace throughout the race earlier. Didn't see that happening either, to be honest.
And that was a pretty critical one. And he has, Roger Grols has moved up to P5.
I'm not sure, but we have to focus, I think, here on this, and we'll get that all sorted later on as we follow von Skeltermaar.
Perhaps, in fairness, Roger was always behind Willem van der Vorm, and maybe I've called that wrong. But here comes von Skeltermaar on Christian Kinch. So Roger Grols is P5, Willem van der Vorm is P4, and then it is, well, you can see this battle royale, which is continuing to rage between Christian Kinch and von Skeltermaar. And I would suggest that Fons is quicker, but he's got to find a way past Christian Kinch. Christian is just placing the car absolutely perfectly for maximum defense. And you can see he hugs the inside of the track, so Fons is kind of forced to go around the outside, which would give him the outside for turn number 4. Now, we have seen an overtake there earlier today. You've got to be brave, and you've got to be confident in the grip that is afforded to you. But now, if Christian runs a little bit wide, does that give the Fons the opportunity? Brilliant defensive driving from Christian Kinch. Frustrating, of course, for Skeltermaar, but there we are. It's what racing is all about. Half of it is defending as well as attacking, Nico.
Indeed, and the shark is trying to bite, but nothing doing there. But von Skeltermaar, obviously, he doesn't want to crash into the back of the Christian Kinch car. He will be on the attack, but he will be smart about it. And there is, once again, the overtake for the lead, and enjoy that. It's tough, it's critical, but it's fair racing among the two Austrians here.
And that's when you try and rotate the car through the turn. It was inevitable that it was always going to be a little panel rub between the two of them. But, as you say, firm but fair racing between the two. And there is the Kirk Beervold car, and it's the battle for P1 in Coppa Shell&AM because Motohiko Isosaki is leading it, is going past back-marking cars. So Motohiko Isosaki in the 105 car, who has been on the podium with a P2 earlier this season, but he hasn't taken a win yet, and he would be blissfully happy if he was able to take a win here at Spielberg. He's got just under 7 minutes still to run, and Kirk Beervold, though, has got slightly different ambitions to that of Motohiko Sasaki. Kirk Beervold then just taking a look going into turn number 3. It's all about exit speed here, because you continue to climb, and the exit of turn number 3, get as much as you can in terms of momentum. And for the moment, Motohiko Sasaki untroubled, I would suggest, by Kirk Beervold, who seems a little bit livelier on the brakes potentially and is able to close the gap. Now, Motohiko runs very wide there. That allows Kirk Beervold to get a little bit closer. Of course, the track is evolving almost every single lap with the grip that is available to them. Now, generally speaking, wet weather tires work really, really well when it is really wet. And sometimes, you know, you see drivers taking extraordinary lines just to keep the tires in their operating window, Nico, and keep them cool, because you can overstress wet weather tires.
Absolutely. However, we can still see the spray coming from the tires, so I think we're still in reasonably conditions all across the track, left to right. But as you say, once a dry line forms, you will see the drivers finding the wet patches, which doesn't seem logical, but it makes sense from a tire point of view, as Fons Geltma really tries on the outside. Ooh, and that went really bad for both of them, but they kept it together, and Christian Kinch kept it in his position. Meanwhile,
huge respect to both of those drivers, Nico, because that could have gone so terribly wrong.
Absolutely. Willem van der Waal, meanwhile, has reduced his deficit on Axel Sartingen for the final podium position to 0.9 seconds, so he's really closing in.
Let's see this again in replay. Fons was brave here around the outside. Now onto the painted lines that you talked about earlier, and that's when the grip just completely goes away. The back end of the car, he controlled it well. And fair play to both of those drivers for holding those cars. That was a brave but heart in the mouth moment as well, but fair play. Right, here is Ernst Kirchmayr. You can see there the car of Alexander Nussbaumer, the back marking car of Lisa Clark. And now Axel Sartingen is getting ever closer. Now, Lisa, on this tight track, Nico, will do everything she can to get out of the way. But of course, there is a race going on behind as well. Will this play into the hands? Oh, as the round has gone, Thomas Koester and John Dillon. Now, can Thomas get the car out of there? I hope so. Yes, he can. So let's see that again. So John Dillon here, well, made contact with the back end of the Thomas Koester car. Thomas goes round in a spin. John Dillon takes to the gravel, and there you can see it in from a completely different angle as those cars went around. So that in the closing stages of this race, because we only have 4 minutes left. Very quickly, let's go down to Ludovica.
Yes, I'm here with Carlo Dell'Orto of Radici Automobili for discover more about the race of Motohiko. He is pushing so hard in this moment and in this difficult condition of the race, but he is maintaining his position.
Yes, Sasaki is fighting with Kirkewald. There are just a couple of minutes left. We hope that he can do it. The problem is that the rain is decreasing, so the conditions are more tricky than before, because in some places it's super wet, in some other a little bit less. So we hope for the best for Sasaki-san.
Thank you so much. Back to you guys.
Thank you. And Kirk Beervold there, discretion the better part of valor. He stood on the brakes so as not to make contact with Motohiko Sasaki going into turn 3.
Yeah, and as a result, he really basically stalled the car, and you can see what a gap that has been. And
but fair play for gentleman driving, Nico, because there are other drivers, with all due respect, that have kept their foot in.
Of course, and fair play for him for trying, and fair play for him for not going across the line, even though it compromised his exit and his entire turn there. And once again, Fons Geltma and Christian Kinch. And has Fons done it? Has Fons done it? Yes, I think based on our timing screen, he has done it.
Well, after lap after lap after lap of trying, Fons Geltma does put himself ahead of Christian Kinch. And there is the 109 car of Ernst Kirchmayr, who, of course, is leading now. Next in the target sights of Willem van der Worm could be Axel Sartingen here. Axel has not been able to find a way past Alexander Nussbaumer. I have to say, Ernst Kirchmayr has disappeared up the road, Nico, once he got by Nussbaumer. So Kirkmeyer, Nussbaumer and Sartigan. And for the AM drivers, it's Motohiko, Isozaki, Kirk Beervold, and Tommy Lindroth in P3.
Absolutely. This is the penultimate lap, because by the time Ernst Kirchmeier reaches the timing line, there will not be enough time for another lap. So the remainder of this, plus one more for Alexander Nussbaumer to retain P2. And for Axel Sartigan, P2, P3, P4, P anything almost, because he's not gonna just be content. Obviously, points for him as the championship leader are critical.
Yep.
But he's not gonna just lay down and accept P3 as the maximum.
No. But equally, it's that risk-reward strategy, isn't it? You know, do you go all out for trying to take P2 rather than P3? But if you end up binning it, that's the risk-reward, isn't it? And he will be aware of that. It's you know, there's still plenty of racing to come in the season. He's got a reasonable lead in the championship, and it's too early to start really talking about the championship, I would have suggested. So we start the final lap then with Kirkmeyer, Nussbaumer and Sartigan. And we start the final lap for our AM drivers as well. Motohiko, Isozaki, Kirk Beervold and Tommy Lindroth. Now, car number 151 picks up a time penalty of 25 seconds for causing a collision. That was John Dillon when he ran into the back of Tommy Lindroth. Sorry, not Tommy Lindroth, Thomas Gosner. And here we can see the Axel Sartigan car. There's our race leader. Here's P2, 3 and 4. Now, I think from Axel's point of view, Willem van der Vorm is probably a little bit too far back to really mount an attack on Sartigan without risking too much. After saying that, under braking, he really closes. So nothing is done until the checkered flag flies, Nico.
Indeed, and that is also something that Axel has to bear in mind, that if he tries to attack somewhere Alexander Nussbaumer, and it doesn't work, that might leave him vulnerable. But in fairness, the good overtaking opportunities and spots have gone away, and in the wet conditions, I rather think that barring disaster, this is how they might finish. Willem van der Vorm, different opinion potentially, he's still going for it. But here is Ernst Kirchmeier returning to the series in style. He won here many times before, and he is one turn away from the win.
Yes, Austrian takes the checkered flag as he heads towards it right now. Ernst Kirchmeier then takes P1. Alexander Nussbaumer will be P2. Then it will be Axel Sartigan ahead of Willem van der Vorm and Roger Grols. And then it will be von Skelterma, we think, ahead of Christian Kinch. And there you can see Fabian Volvend, who's delighted because she has been coaching Tommy Lindroth, and Tommy could be on for a podium here. We're waiting for the AM drivers to cross the line. And here comes the first of those, and it is Motohiko Isozaki. And it will be a well-deserved win for Motohiko here in Austria as he rounds the final turn and heads towards the timing line. Then it'll be Motohiko Isozaki that takes the win in Coppa Shell&AM ahead of Kirk Beervold. And we're waiting. Tommy Lindroth takes P3, so he gets a podium. Wow, I have to say, in really, really challenging conditions, well done to all the drivers, because it could have been nightmares for them out there, but it wasn't. Brilliant driving from our drivers. Ernst Kirchmeier, Alexander Nussbaumer and Axel Sartigan are the top three in Shell, but for Shell&AM, it's Motohiko Isozaki ahead of Kirk Beervold and Tommy Lindroth. Challenging conditions. Well, there you can see the delight there. P1 for Motohiko Isozaki, and Carlo there, the team, really, really loving that, and rightly so. So very damp conditions, very challenging conditions for the drivers, and we saw some, despite those conditions, some really good overtaking. And Ernst Kirchmeier, once he got his nose in front, he was just able to escape up the road and did a very good job indeed. For everyone else behind, well, that was a real race of attrition, wasn't it? You had to work for what you've achieved in that race.
Absolutely, and especially in the early part, there was very, very little in terms of visibility. It got better later on, and that meant the drivers got back together, bunched up again, and that meant more overtaking opportunities, and this man made the most of them, Ernst Kirchmeier, and he'll be quite happy. I don't think he'll jump to the top of the the roof of the car. Will
no,
he?
Not advisable.
Oh,
Not in
maybe.
these damp conditions, surely not.
Well, it's a home win.
Franz Freeman is engineer there, and Philip Barron is in the picture as well. Kushti is what Franz says to him. And, well, there you can see Alexander Nussbaumer just taking a look at the side of his car. Because, of course, there was a little bit of contact between the two of them, but it was fair contact. And there you can see Manuel Reuter and Franz Engstler offering their congratulations to Alexander Nussbaumer also. And the entertainer, Axel Sardigan, he probably maxed out in terms of what he could achieve there. And I think he drove with his head, Nico, because bank the points. Here's confirmation of the result then. Ernst Kirchmeier, Alexander Nussbaumer and Axel Sardigan, P1, 2 and 3. And Motohiko Isazaki and Kirk Beerwold. And Tommy Lindroth, the top 3 for the Coppa Shell&AM drivers. The rest of the order you can see on screen. And what could have been a very, very difficult race, actually, was quite an entertaining race. And well done to all the drivers for coping with those difficult conditions so well. I mean, it must be an absolute nightmare, particularly in the early laps, as Nico has suggested, where visibility was at a premium. It did get better as the race went on, but even so, credit to them all. And there you can see the congratulations being offered there to Motohiko Isazaki. Very well done indeed. He'll be thrilled with that. He's English is not a language that Motohiko is so good with, as Kirk Beerwold receives congratulations for his second place. And, well, here we can see the virtual podium for Coppa Shell, which will be Ernst Kirchmeier, Alexander Nussbaumer, and Axel Sartingen. Let's take a look at the pit show now.
Ernst, congratulations for the result and the podium. What a race for you. You start from the 3rd position and you fight and push a lot with your opponents. What do you feel to be here now?
Yeah, it's absolutely great, unbelievable. It's my home race. The condition was very, very difficult, and at the beginning I could see more or less nothing. And but I made really a good race. I didn't make one mistake and pushed and pushed and pushed. And yeah, I'm very, very happy and never will forget this moment. It's unforgettable for me. At home, winner at home, crazy.
This was a big return for you in Ferrari Challenge, and this is the first round in this condition. So I want to ask you if you totally found the perfect setup with your team for this race with your Ferrari.
Absolutely, the team was great, the setup was great, and my driver coach Nicola Schiro told me exactly what to do. He made a great job too. So it was a teamwork, and I like it. But to be part of a team, okay, one person have to drive. This was myself. myself, but it was the team. The teamwork was great, by the way.
Thank you so much, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
He's a real gentleman, you know, Mr. Kirchmeier, thanking his team for all their efforts, of course, as well. And Philip Barron, the headmaster of said team. Let's take a look at the highlights of that race now. And there you can see the top 3 overtakes. Motohiko Isazaki, Ernst Kirchmeier, and Roger Grols. But the highlights are coming in just a moment. And here we go. Here then are the race statistics, and Ernst Kirchmayr making best progress in Coppa Shell of 2 places, but look at Motohiko Isazaki, 8 places made up. He didn't overtake all of those, some were gifted to him, but take nothing away from Motohiko, who was the quickest in Coppa Shell&AM with a 235.1 km/h top speed, and it's 238.7 for Corinna Gosner in Coppa Shell with regards to the top speed. Follow us on @Ferrari Races, if you will, the race statistics there. So we'll be heading up to the podium in just a couple of moments' time. So podium being readied as we speak. There you can see Franz Engstler and Luca Engstler, members, of course, of the Gosner, the Engstler racing team. Here's Axel Sardingen.
Second place.
He, of course, takes P3. Here comes Alexander Nussbaumer for P2. And this for Coppa Shell. Ernst Kirchmayr then onto the top step of the podium. It's a place he knows well, in all honesty. And wow, from Baron Motorsport, Ines is taking to the podium representing the team. Well done. National anthem for Ernst Kirchmayr. So as the podium plays out, or the anthem plays out on the podium, time for trophy presentations. Alessio Rovera is going to make the trophy presentations. There he is, official Ferrari GT driver, top man, really, really nice guy, and blisteringly quick racing driver, and he offers congratulations, first of all, to Axel Sardingen for P3. P2 then going the way of Alexander Nussbaumer. And then on the top step of the podium, and therefore in receipt of a trophy with P1 on it, is Ernst Kirchmayr. Well done, gents. And there is Ingvar Madsen clapping along. And for Baron Motorsport, Ines Ruhl will receive the trophy. Well done, Ines. And the drivers get to the top step of the podium then for the photographs to be taken. And here the cars then, the top 3 cars. Luex Sportivo, Herta Racing, Axel Sardingen, P3. For the Gomes Scuderia GT, Alexander Nussbaumer, P2. And of course for Baron Motorsport, Ernst Kirchmayr, P1. Podium being readied next for the AM podium, but in the meantime, let's take a look at the points. Axel Sardingen still leading on 75 points, 33 ahead of Manuela Gosner. Then it's von Skeltermeyer and Willem van der Vorm, and Alexander Nussbaumer moves up a place. Roger Grols moves up 2 places, and Ernst Kirchmayr with a fine finish moves up 7 places in the Drivers' Championship. So there we have it. Axel Sardingen still the leader in the Coppa Shell points, and that's why I think he just drove with his head and banked the points rather than doing a daredevil move to achieve perhaps one further place in the order. So Coppa Shell&AM podium is next, where we will be seeing Motohiko Isazaki, Kirk Beervold, and Tommy Lindroth. The very man makes his way to the podium right now and gesticulates as only Tommy would to the camera. is Kirk Beervold. And stand by for Motohiko
Steady on.
Sasaki. Going to the top step of the podium. Brilliant stuff. Sorry, Nico.
Absolutely, and Isozaki had a tough time in Valencia where he had the speed, but he makes up for it today and takes his first win. Well deserved.
I have to say, I'm thrilled for Motohiko Isozaki. So he's such a nice gentleman, great racing driver, and he's on the top step of the podium in the European Series. I mean, of course, he's raced in Asia Pacific and what is now the Japan Series, but to come here and mix it with the Europeans. Tommy Lindroth, he receives his P3 trophy. Well done, Tommy Lindroth. Alessio Rivera, forgive me, making the trophy presentation to Kirk Beervold. Sorry, Nico, I interrupted you.
No worries. And it's a sweep for Baron Motorsport, taking the win in both the Shell and the AMs. So Phil Barron might be semi-happy today because he's hard to please.
Indeed. Motohiko Isozaki then receives his trophy. Brilliant stuff. So trophies presented by Alessio Rivera then, Competizione GT Ferrari driver. And all onto the podium. And trophies lifted up. Tommy, come on, put a smile on, please. Here's the car from Baron Motorsport that propelled Tommy Lindroth. Fabian Volvend may have had something to do with that as well. Up to P3. Well done, Tommy. It's P2 for Kessel Racing's Kirk Beervold. Up P1 for the Kones Motoshiba driver Motohiko Isozaki. So we'll take a look at the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell&AM Drivers' Championship standings right now, with Kirk Beervold still leading, but Nico only leading by 11 points now over Motohiko Isozaki and Giuseppe Romelli. Then Tommy Lindroth, who's vaulted 6 places in the championship table, up to P4. Oh, some very, very exciting racing to come from Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell, that's for sure. And still a lot more racing to come, of course, as we head off after this weekend in Spielberg. We'll be going to Le Mans, then Estoril in Portugal, and then Spa in Belgium ahead of the World Finals, the Finale Mondiale in Mugello. Big credit to all the teams and to all the drivers for doing so well in challenging weather conditions to bring us that Coppa Shell race. Don't forget to follow us on @Ferrari Races. Big thanks to our production team. Big thanks to Nico Spalak alongside me, who keeps me pointing in the right direction, mostly. And thank you to you for watching. Please join us for tomorrow's races. Bye-bye for now.